Come on over, talk to Extra.
Hi. Can I get him over?
Come on over.
Sure, what? Who, what?
Chris, we love
Hi.
you. Chris, how you doing? We love your half-penny commercials.
I was raised in an era to believe if you're black, you have to do things twice as good as the white man in order to succeed.
Chris Rock, one of the most prominent and recognized comedians in America. Since he first started doing comedy back in the 80s, he has never stopped making audiences laugh throughout his career.
You know, my jokes were like my children.
I have no favorites.
I get laughs, so I'll mix it up. Comedy, drama, you know, not totally drama. I'm not gonna play Hannibal Lecter or anything.
Today, he has reached heights by being groundbreaking, controversial, and fearless, and is even considered an influence for comedians like Kevin Hart or Trevor Noah.
I've always tried to get laughs, I'll say that. You know, from the time, you know, the doctor smacked me on my ass and I said, give me another one. You know, my fans are black and white and gay and straight.
However, the hilarious, unapologetic, hardworking comic with sharp social punchlines hasn't always had it easy. In fact, he draws his comedy from a darker side of his past.
When I started out, yeah, I mean, if they paid me for jokes that didn't work, yeah, I'd be richer than Bill Gates. A lot of people don't respect stand-up comedy as something hard.
I'm just amazed that so many people wanted to see me do stand-up here. Now, there's, 40, 50,000 people walking around with tickets to the show.
We look back at the life and rise of the one who was once named the funniest man in America.
Well, opportunity goes a long way, luck goes a long way, you know. You gotta be good, which, counts the most at the end of the day.
I'm pretty happy with my lot at the moment. I'm not greedy. I'll take what I can get.
I think I said this before, with the black shows, I was raised in an era to believe if you're black, you have to do things twice as good as the white man in order to succeed.
Chris Rock's journey as a comedian really began in 1986, on the day he gets to meet one of his major comedy influences for the first time. While performing at The Comic Strip, the coming legend Eddie Murphy spots and befriends him. Considered one of the greatest stand-ups of all time with a massive career, Eddie Murphy rose to fame on Saturday Night Live and then moved on to the big screen with hits like 48 Hours and Beverly Hills Cop. Murphy also joked about the differences between blacks and whites. On that day, he connects with the upcoming young comedian. Impressed by Rock's best performance so far, Murphy offers him the small part of a parking valet in the 1987 film Beverly Hills Cop 2, which marks his film debut and launches his career.
Yo, what the fuck is up, man? Check this out. I get $10 for cars, I get $20 for limos. What the hell is this?
My truck. Here's $50. Put it next to the limo.
This not only gives him great exposure, but the confidence and energy he needs to keep going. Rock moves on from opener to headliner in comedy clubs around the country, although he still only earns $40 a night. His initial success helps him land small parts in TV series like Miami Vice and Uptown Comedy Express. But it is his role in the film I'm Going to Get You Sucker that leads him to be invited to audition for a hugely popular comedy series.
How much for an order of ribs?
$2.50.
$2.50? How many ribs do I get with that?
About 5.
5? So I guess that's about 50 cents a rib, huh?
Yeah, about.
Let me get one.
Right on. One order ribs.
No. 1 rib.
1 rib.
I sure am hungry.
In 1990, he finally gets his big break when he is selected to host Saturday Night Live. Appearing with other cast members like Adam Sandler, David Spade, Rob Schneider, and Chris Farley, Chris Rock becomes recognized as one of the hot new talents in comedy. Rock is the first black comedian to join the set since Eddie Murphy. For the first time in his life, Rock enjoys the spotlight and the pleasures that come with fame. And with fame come new professional opportunities. In the following year, he comes up with his first comedy record titled Born Suspect, 1991, in which he addresses society's suspicion of Black people because of their color. That year, his striking performance as a cocaine addict in the movie New Jack City is applauded by his fans and film critics, as his dramatic acting performance goes beyond his usual comic range. Soon after, he gets a second chance to work with Eddie Murphy in the romantic comedy Boomerang, 1992. But behind the success in entertainment is a difficult path, and Chris Rock survived a turbulent childhood.
I was blessed to have a father in my life. True. I had a two-parent family in the hood, in Bed-Stuy. Yep, people would come around and look at my father like it was a science project or something, like put him in a glass case someday and charge people.
Christopher Julius Rock was born on February 7th, 1965, in Andrews, South Carolina, in the middle of the Civil Rights Movement and while America was suffering from political and racial turmoil. When Chris turned 6 years old, his family moved north to seek better opportunities and relocated to Crown Heights, Brooklyn in New York City. Then to the predominantly Black and working-class neighborhood of Bedford-Stuyvesant, known as Bed-Stuy. Since the early 20th century, this area had been a center of African-American culture, home to cultural icons from Jackie Robinson to Jay-Z. Chris's father, Christopher Julius Rock II, worked as a truck driver and a newspaper deliverer, while his mother, Rose Rock, was employed as a teacher in a school for the mentally handicapped. Chris Rock was the eldest of 8 children, having 6 brothers and a sister. He grew up in a crowded place, and he even recalls that it was like his mother was running a daycare center. All 3 of his younger brothers followed him to pursue careers in the entertainment industry. He also had an older stepbrother, Charles, who died in 2006 after a long struggle with alcoholism. Chris's grandfather, Alan Rock, who worked as a preacher and a taxi driver in the 40s, had a great influence on his comedy style. His great-great-grandfather, Julius Caesar Tigman, was a slave for 21 years before serving in the American Civil War as part of the United States colored troops. The struggle began in elementary school. Since South Brooklyn's neighborhoods were dominated by white people, Chris had to put up with harsh racial discrimination because of his skin color. He remembered going to James Madison High School in a separate bus that exclusively ferried Black students. For young Chris Rock, the threat of racism became an everyday torment, beaten up and persecuted every single day by white students. And the oppression intensified over the years. In his own words, every day was hell. One day, someone even hit him in the head with a bat. Tired by the fighting, his grades suffered, and eventually, he stopped attending high school for good, but he still received a general education diploma certification. His bitter experience with racism and bigotry during his school years had a strong influence on his career as a comedian, and it ended up being a defining experience in his life. To survive all these years, Chris quickly had to develop a sense of humor and a sharp wit. At 14 years old, he was trying to bring comedy out of every situation, particularly the difficult ones. He began to develop the talents that would define his future. His humor became his way out.
I've always tried to get laughs, I'll say that. From the time, the doctor smacked me on my ass and I said, give me another one. I go, hey, didn't we just meet?
After dropping out of school, Chris Rock made money loading papers onto his father's daily news truck and did odd jobs at several fast food joints and cafeterias to make ends meet. He said his game plan was to keep working at Red Lobster, get his truck driver's license, and drive a truck like his father. But the future was holding something different for him. At night, he began hanging out at all the local comedy clubs, scrapping for stage time and amateur open mic nights. His first attempts as a stand-up comedian began in 1984 at a place called Catch a Rising Star. He was scared to death, but he put himself out there. Many celebrated humorists, including Eddie Murphy, Adam Sandler, Billy Jerry Seinfeld, and Billy Crystal, had honed their skills at that same club. To get some extra onstage time, Chris Rock cleaned tables for a brief period at the oldest comedy club of New York City, the comic strip Live. The competition was fierce. He was working at night, being paid only $5 a night at times. And although Chris was talented, his early comedy was still unrefined. But the boy had a lot of stories to tell about his early life. He continued to perform despite early ups and downs in his reception. He performed in the nightclubs and comedy clubs of New York City and spent the next few years polishing his act. And drawing from his personal experiences, he just had a natural sense for comedy and an instinct for what makes people laugh. Chris Rock also became an early fan of the sketch comedy sensation Saturday Night Live, watching comedians like Garrett Morris and Eddie Murphy perform on television. While learning the techniques of professional comedy and inspired by both black and white legends like Bill Cosby, Richard Pryor, Woody Allen, and Red Fox, he pushed through. His career slowly began to take hold, and he became a regular performer at local clubs. In 1988, as his career is finally taking off, a tragic event happens. His father becomes ill, and after going to the hospital for an operation, he never comes home. He succumbs to an ulcer at the age of 55. Chris Rock is devastated after losing his most important support system, but it only fuels his desire to succeed even more. From then, he goes on an external quest to fulfill his father's expectations. Sadly, Christopher Julius never gets to see the height of his son's success. With no other choice than to move on, Rock continues to forge ahead through New York City's comedy industry. Fast forward to the early 90s, and Chris Rock's life finally seems to be on the right track. From 1990 to 1993, he hosts a total of 59 episodes of Saturday Night Live and earns nationwide fame and recognition as a comedian in the 3 years. At 26 years old, he meets Malak Compton, the founder and executive director of the nonprofit organization StyleWorks, and began a serious relationship with her. She brings some grounding to Rock's often heady lifestyle. He even declares that she calms him and centers his life. However, just as his personal life seems promising, Chris's career takes an unexpected turn. After rising from the darkness of his childhood to local comedy clubs, and then to the high-profile stage of Saturday Night Live, he soon experiences another professional setback. He had begun to feel underused on the program, and his screen time had diminished in favor of the other cast members. Feeling that he isn't making the impact he wanted, Chris is quietly planning to quit following the end of his third season in 1993, but he ends up being laid off much before the season comes to an end. Rock later confesses that he never quite found his footing on the show. But now he has television experience, which he uses, and soon he is featured as a guest actor in a season of the comedy series In Living Color. However, the show is in trouble and is canceled shortly after. This is another seriously devastating experience for Chris. Many actors never get back on their feet again after such a setback. It seems that his success is fading away. Chris Rock had fallen off the radar screen, and some even thought his career might be over. But the fight isn't over for him. In 1993, having nothing else to lose, he attempts to revive his career with the film CB4 that he scripted, co-produced, and starred in. Despite a strong opening weekend that brought some much-needed publicity for him, CB4 fails to connect with audiences.
Now, CB4 is one of the hottest hip-hop groups to come on the scene in a very, very long time.
Straight out of low cash, a crazy young brother named Gusto.
I'm MC Gusto, but in prison I'm known as 9-7 Dash.
After failing to make his comeback, Chris Rock decides to return to what he knows best, stand-up.
I get offered series all the time. I just want to I want to do good work. You know what I mean? I just want to do good work. And if I got the right offer, if the creators of The Simpsons called me up tomorrow, or if Larry David called me up tomorrow and said he had a great idea, I'd be open.
This time, after refocusing on his work and honing his craft, his comedy takes on a whole new level. He starts dealing with more serious topics, forcing his white and black audiences to confront the issues of race and culture that they would prefer to ignore. It works. His aggressive and edgy comedy win the attention of one particular cable channel.
One thing you gotta realize with HBO, I love HBO. It's like the only place for me, really. I don't think I could really function well on another place. And it's not because of profanity. It's not because of cursing. You can't do most of the things I talked about in my HBO special. You could take out the cursing. You can't do abortion jokes on television. You can't talk about black people and niggers on regular television. You can't do 90% of the stuff I talked about topic-wise on regular television without cursing, you know? So, I mean, HBO is the best place for art, the best place for thought. You know what I mean?
From 1994 to 2008, Rock appears in a string of comedy specials endorsed by HBO, with new acts that finally bring him unprecedented success. First, there is Big Ass Jokes in 1994, but he really makes his mark with the 1996 special Bring the Pain, where he pushes the boundaries by exposing racism and a hostile world, the same one he faced as a child.
Just at another point in my life, you know, time to settle down. Time to settle down. That's what time it is. Time to settle down. Boy. Women always ready to settle down. A woman go on 4 good dates. She's like, why are we bullshitting? What are you waiting for? Men never ready to settle down. Men don't settle down. We surrender. All right, I'll bear yes. All right.
Chris Rock uses comedy to invite people into his world, and that way, he connects with people. Even though Rock reinvented himself and came back stronger, he still has not regained the popularity that he enjoyed while on Saturday Night Live 3 years earlier. Until he begins to win back audiences and critics when he is chosen as a commentator for the late-night political talk show Politically Incorrect to review the 1996 presidential elections. Rock is a major voice in political discussions and was an early proponent of an important movement in American history. This success and his poignant performance in Bring the Pain not only refresh his career, but they earn him 2 Emmy Awards and firmly establish him as a powerful force in stand-up and one of the most accomplished comedians in America.
What does it say about the Emmy? You know, it says I would say they really listened. They really watched it carefully, and I think they really listened, and they weren't swayed by profanity or anything. They just really got into the content of what I was trying to say. It was just me. It wasn't a big show or anything. It's just me and a microphone, and I didn't beat, but they chose me over, you know, huge productions and the Oscars and the Bette Midler thing, and, you know. A lot of people don't respect stand-up comedy as something hard. I never in my wildest dreams thought I would, you know, be up here with 2 Emmy Awards or even get nominated for an Emmy. My life is a celebration. I don't need a party or anything to have fun.
At that moment, Chris's career is resurrected and his relationship with HBO is solidified. In 1996, he and Malak get married, and together they welcome 2 daughters, Lola and Zara. However, the couple split up in 2016. In 1997, HBO gives Chris his own show, The Chris Rock Show. The success of this show is unanimous. He interviews big personalities, including popular statesmen, politicians, and film stars. Chris has written the script for the episodes as well as created and produced the series, and he is rewarded with an Emmy for Best Writing. He earns a total of 15 nominations and 3 Emmy Awards for the program. In 1997, he releases his second comedy album, Roll with the New, and takes home a Grammy Award for Best Comedy Album. Also in 1997, he releases a book, Rock This, detailing his comedic performances. The bestseller brought him a $1 million payday. Although Chris Rock's stupendous success as a stand-up comedian towards the end of the 90s helped him to bag crucial roles in feature films, many of which went on to become blockbusters, he still hasn't successfully returned in television or film. He plays supporting parts in movies like Beverly Hills Ninja, but never receives the acclaim in acting the same way he did in stand-up comedy. However, Chris Rock always manages to find a way, and soon Hollywood would be knocking on his door again.
I hadn't been in a great movie, so I didn't have anything to really live up to. As a, I think when Eddie Murphy directed, he had all these great movies that he had to live up to. It's like, man, is it gonna be as good as Trading Places or Beverly Hills Cop? I did not have that problem. I had people going, well, it's gotta be better than Pootie Tang,
In the late 90s, Eddie Murphy asked him to be the voice of Rodney the Guinea Pig in a mega-hit remake of Dr. Dolittle. Rock also brings his comedy style as a police detective in the film Lethal Weapon 4 in 1998. And in 2000, he acts along Morgan Freeman in Nurse Betty.
What do you got, Putter?
The guy you chased through Chinatown?
Yeah.
The gun he dropped matched slugs on the body on the boat. That's your shooter.
Son of a bitch, they got away from me.
No, it didn't get too far. They found him on a rooftop nearby, strangled. And get this, pigeons ate his eyeballs.
Chris has always wanted to act, and now he wants to play bigger parts, do better work, and be on the winning team. He soon becomes a winner. His next comedy album, Bigger and Blacker, 1999, earns him a second Grammy Award, and the HBO special of the same name earns him 2 more Emmy nominations.
I'm happy. I can't believe we got an award for this show. We don't know. We're like on the Emmys getting an award. It's ridiculous. If you saw what we did all day. You saw.
At the height of his career, the high school dropout is proclaimed the funniest man in America by both Time magazine and the New York Daily News.
Oh, I am not the funniest man alive. Not by a long shot. I think, Adam Sandler's got receipts that prove he's a little funnier.
Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Murphy. Will Smith, when he wants to make people laugh, can really do it well. I'm just the funniest guy that showed up to talk to you today.
Brilliant. Oh, well, thank you very much.
In 2000, after a successful 5-season run on HBO, he decides to step down from the Chris Rock Show and heads for the big screen again. Chris makes his mark on Hollywood as a leading man when he stars in the 2001 film Down to Earth.
Yeah, I'm horrible.
You ever bombed on stage?
Yeah, I bomb all the time. I mean, when I started out, if they paid me for jokes that didn't work, I'd be richer than Bill Gates.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
What was the worst time you've ever bombed?
After I lost my virginity, the girl started booing. She demanded.
I really want to hear about that.
She demanded a recount. It was rough. It was like 4 days. Before you knew it, she's a virgin again. So was I.
In 2002, he stars as a CIA agent opposite Anthony Hopkins in Bad Company. And on March 12, 2003, he is honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Ladies and gentlemen, we proudly welcome to the Hollywood Walk of Fame, Chris Rock.
David, looking straight ahead.
Chris Rock also goes behind the scenes, demonstrating his skills as a scriptwriter, director, and a voiceover actor. In 2005, he becomes the voice to Marty the Zebra in the delightful animated movie Madagascar.
We've been ratted out, boys.
Good evening, officers.
Now, they're being sent way out of town.
Oh, great. This is just great.
This could be the best thing that's ever happened to us.
No, 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 no.
The first movie I ever took my youngest daughter, Zara, to see was Madagascar 2, I would believe. No, 1. And I remember we watched at the DreamWorks campus, and she turns to me and goes, "Daddy, is that you?" And, you know, it was just such a great day. I mean, the script's great, but... I mean, like, as a director, I always like people that are too big, because it's so much easier to get them down than to get somebody who is too small up. That's like, oh, that's the most frustrating thing in the world. So I improv all the freaking time until they tell me to stop. And they go, okay, we got to get this line. You got to say circus. And I make sure after a lot of improv that I say exactly what they want me to say, but I try to.
His voice acting was instantly recognizable, and he brought his own comedy flair to the role.
But what's the worst thing about it? Is there a bad thing about it?
I mean, you have to use your voice a lot, so sometimes you can like work too much and then you can't talk and you get like laryngitis and stuff like that, especially a lot of the screaming stuff. Like, me and Ben actually recorded some of it together, which was pretty cool. So, you know, when you get to work with another comedian, it's always good.
And I hear you and Chris got together actually in the studio, which is unusual for an animation.
Yeah, we did that one day, which was really fun because he's so good, and to see him improvise, it was very inspiring and a little bit intimidating because he comes up with a lot of funny lines.
How is it to strike that balance?
Well, you know, we kind of make these films for ourselves to make us laugh, and we're probably pretty juvenile at heart, you know, and so, but the goal is to, you know, so parents could take their kids to a movie and not be bored and wait for it to be done so they can take their kids home, but everyone could go and enjoy it together. That's always the goal with Madagascar movies.
Well, that's what's great about working with these guys. They are incredible comedians, actors, improvisers, even filmmakers, you know, directors, and so to collaborate with these guys, which is really what we do when we're in the recording studio with them, is just a great opportunity to make the movie better, you know, and get Sacha Baron Cohen in a room and he starts improvising in front of the microphone. Ben Stiller and Chris Rock we brought together so they could play off one another and work off the page and go beyond the page, and so it's just better for the film all the way around, you know?
We have the best seats in the house, too, when it comes to these comedians. Yeah. We're sitting in the booth just cracking up most of the time. That's the fun part.
They're a whole lot of fun, and it's for the kids.
Yeah.
How about both?
It is both, actually, isn't it?
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a combination. You know, it's fun to do something that you are a part of the whole sort of
You're part
process,
of a
you know?
winning team.
Yeah.
That same year, Chris Rock develops the sitcom Everybody Hates Chris, 2005, based on his early life and his harrowing school days that he writes and narrates. The series, broadcasted by UPN Television from 2005 to 2009, picked up several prestigious nominations, including Emmy Awards, People's Choice Award, and Golden Globe.
Show is like a wonder years. It's like Malcolm X in the middle.
And you're narrating.
Yes.
Hey, you need a VCR?
I got one already.
Fell off the truck this morning.
Really? I'll take 2.
I never realized the only stuff that sold on the street in my neighborhood was stolen stuff.
Cookies! Cookies for sale! Chocolate chip, peanut butter Dosey-Do, chocolate mint.
I got cookies.
They just fell off the truck this morning.
Why did you say so? Give me 2 boxes.
Perhaps the peak of his career is when Rock hosts the Oscar Academy Awards ceremonies in 2005 and 2016, joining comedic alumni such as Billy Crystal, David Letterman, and Whoopi Goldberg. However, on both occasions, he garners criticism for his controversial comments.
No black nominees, you know? And people are like, Chris, you should boycott. Chris, you should quit. You should quit. You know, how come there's only unemployed people that tell you to quit something, huh? No one with a job ever tells you to quit. So I thought about quitting. I thought about it real hard. But I realized they're gonna have the Oscars anyway. They're not gonna cancel the Oscars because I quit, you know? And the last thing I need
is to lose another job to Kevin Hart, okay?
The controversy never really affected me. I didn't really think about it. It doesn't, I don't know, it seemed made up, put it that way. I mean, I tour the country and, you know, I'm out across America more than most writers, or, you know, as much as you guys anyway. And I'm in the whole country, and so I didn't, you know, my fans are black and white and gay and straight, and I didn't feel like, you know, there was any controversy at all.
What was part of this whole Oscar experience for you?
The hardest part, the whole, it just getting the material ready without the press putting every joke in a magazine or on the internet.
And also, do you have a good luck charm?
Do I have a good luck charm? I keep, you know, my dad's picture and, you know, close by. You know, my jokes are like my children. I have no favorites. But I like the Sean Penn comeback. I just like anytime you can get something funny that, you know, we didn't have, you know, coming into the show. You take a little more pride in that. Always feels good to see some color in the room that don't have mops. It's always good.
Chris, over here on your right. You had said before this that it's a room like any other room, and that in fact you've played bigger arenas, but haven't been out there in front of them and been part of it. What is different about this audience?
What's different? You know, it's just, you know what, the only difference is it's the lighting and the dresses and all that stuff. When I play LA, it's almost like that last time I played anyway at the amphitheater. You get a lot of famous people, and I don't know, it's just, it's TV and you can't curse. It's not, the audience is an audience. It's just what you're allowed to do to the audience. So there was some language restrictions that were placed on me. But you know, everything worked out. 5 seconds before I went on air, you try to approach it like another show, because the things that'll make you suck doing this are the same things that'll make you suck when you do a normal concert. So, you know, you go there and you say, okay, I've been working on this for a long time. I know my lines. Let's bring it, you know. You talk, it's like you talk to yourself next to yourself. Hey, let's do this shit, all right? And you get up there.
Discussions about diversity, do you think it went down well in the hall?
It's very complex. In the middle of a ceremony that is a celebration, that is not a meeting, that is not a, you know, to do what he has done. He didn't have an easy year. You know, he has been spicy in some moments. He has been kicking around. Some people may be hurt by what he said. He put the finger in the wound. Eventually, he made us laugh. Eventually, sometimes everybody was like, "Oh my God, is he going too far?" But in the overall, I think they solved very well the situation. You know, it was not easy. Yeah.
Thank you. Enjoy your evening.
Thank you.
I don't know. I mean, Chris got his message across. It was all good. Everybody understood what he was saying and how he was saying it, and it was fun.
And what more do you want the Academy and the industry to do about diversity?
I don't think the Academy can do anymore. Let's see what everybody's talking about in a month and a half, see if it's still in the zeitgeist. And then we'll know if we have something there. If nobody's talking about it in a month, I'll see you here next year talking the same stuff.
Because it's more about the industry making a stand than the Academy. It's got to come from the bottom, hasn't it?
Well, it has to come from the people who cast. And it's not just casting black actors, it's Asian actors and Hispanic actors. It's it's not just one thing. It's a change has to happen, and, you know, it either will or it won't. You know, we'll see.
Thank you.
In 2009, he writes and stars in the documentary Good Hair, where he explores how hairstyles affect African Americans.
A lot of things surprised me in this movie. But one of the things was all the men waiting for their women while they get their hair done. I've never seen that happen before. Like, my boyfriend would never go to the salon with me all day. Tell me about that.
There's a weird thing. Every black man, it takes so long that every black guy, if you date a black woman, there's a point where you think your woman's cheating on you. Because she told you she was at this, you're like, she left at 12, she left at noon, and it's 2 in the morning.
And she's not answering her phone.
And she's not answering her phone, and you're like, yeah, sure, you were getting your hair done. You're like, any guy that ever went through his woman's emails or whatever happened after she got her hair done.
Absolutely.
Does your boyfriend wait for you or your significant other?
No. I'm like, babe, I'm going to get my hair weaved done. That's it.
The actor and comedian would then go on to star in many other films, such as The Longest Yard, I Think I Love My Wife, Death at a Funeral, Grown Ups, What to Expect When You're Expecting, and 2 Days in New York.
I play a guy named Mingus. I'm a writer, a columnist, a disc jockey. I live with the lovely Julie Delpy and my French woman, and my in-laws are coming for the week. And then hilarity ensues. There you go. Since your family got here, you've become another person. You meet somebody gets mad. It's my mother, no tongue. Was your dad ever key a car?
Of course not.
Well, there's an angry limo driver outside that wants to press charges.
Well, Really?
That's my role.
I couldn't find the towel.
The character was better written, even in the movies I write for myself. Like I learned a lot. Like, oh, okay, the character is a real person, or, a real grown-up, who's been married and divorced and has children, and so it was fun to play a grown-up.
It's very funny. I think the film is not like indie in a sense of like hard to get into. I mean, the jokes are very straightforward. You know what I mean? It could be a broader comedy. It just happens to, to be an indie comedy because of this financial setup. But it's actually not, not funny. You know what I mean? It's actually the whole film is comedy from
really
beginning
funny.
to end.
It's so much funnier than the Avengers. It's funnier than Battleship.
Rihanna's ass, though.
I'm not sure about that, yeah.
You sure?
Yeah,
oh, Rihanna's
I'm not
ass.
sure
Is her ass in
not
Battleship?
No, they don't. It's like.
Oh, see? They couldn't blow that up. I mean, it worked. It worked. I had a good time. She was good. She had to be extra, give me a little extra whatever attention because I didn't speak any French. So she had to explain a lot to me.
Was it funny working with her and her dad on the set?
Yeah, because they would have real fights, like real father-daughter fights in French.
Yeah.
So that was kind of fun to watch.
And what do you want audiences to take away?
I just want audiences to realize this is a comedy. A lot of people say, oh, you're in an art movie. I'm like, yeah, I guess you can say that, but it's really funny. It's funnier than you think. So, take care.
It was a British film to start with. So how did you change it for the American cast and for American audiences?
We don't talk about tea as much. It took out all mention of darts. Nobody says, pavement.
Making the film and changing it for the Americans, did you think it made it more obvious the differences between British and American humour?
It's weird. Me, personally, I don't find a big difference between British and American humor. When I was over here on tour as a stand-up, I didn't really have to change anything. I mean, I thought everybody got everything.
Because some people say that Americans are slightly more crude than the English. Do you think
Americans
that's fair?
are slightly more crude than the English. The English are more literate people. You guys read a little more.
Yeah, and we don't talk about toilet humour in quite the same way, I don't think, maybe.
Not quite the same way, no.
It is totally over the top, but I mean, it does show that most families are completely bonkers, aren't they? I mean, everyone can relate to something in it.
Yes, you will see your family in this funeral. It's a family movie, actually. It's so weird that it is, but it's a movie for the whole family.
Who would have thought funerals would be so funny?
Funerals are hysterical. Don't you always find yourself giggling at a funeral?
Difficult for you?
It was difficult. It was difficult. I mean, especially like when you're around a guy like Tracy Morgan, that it's not really a big difference between what he does on the screen and off the screen. He's always kind of funny. So yeah, it was really hard.
When you have that level of comedians, is there rivalry between you? Do you kind of say, oh, you had more jokes in your scene?
No, we don't really have rivalry. Now, when we were younger, there was a rivalry. Now we're just glad to be working. We've seen so many guys fall off. We're like, ooh.
He has also shared screen space with several celebrated Hollywood actors, including Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. Rock proved that he can act in goofy roles, such as the ones along Adam Sandler, but when he wants to, he can take on more serious roles. Kill the Messenger, his 5th and last HBO comedy special, for which he again won an Emmy, is broadcasted on September 7, 2008.
This is the first time in the history of the world where white men actually have to watch what they say. White men are getting in trouble for saying the wrong words, man. It's unbelievable, man. And a lot of white guys, hey, man, that's not fair. You can say whatever you want. You can say nigger. Yeah, when I last checked, that was the only advantage I had to being black. You want to switch places?
Rock also makes his Broadway debut in 2011, performing stand-up acts in the play The Motherfucker with the Hat, that wins him a Drama League Award nomination.
I always wanted to learn how to surf. Guess what?
You surfing now?
Fucking A, you're right, I'm surfing. 3 days a week, I'm on the A train at 5:30 in the morning, and I'm surfing at sunrise. Not thinking about surfing, surfing, bro. I'm also learning how to speak French. I'm taking a fucking archery class. That's right. I floss now. You know what, let me ask you this. Do you take vitamins for your hair?
My hair?
You got great hair.
To everybody in the cast, I'm pulling from my cast. Nice. It's kind of like being on 39th Street, but it's Broadway.
What does it mean to be honored by the Tonys? All these nominations.
Hey, man, it's a good play. The most important thing is that
In 2016, Chris Rock sees his hard work come to fruition again when streaming giant Netflix announced that they will release 2 comedy specials. The first, named Chris Rock, Tambourine, is released in 2018. The show is his first stand-up special in 10 years. In it, he talks about police violence. According to him, the Black Lives Matter movement is the second great civil rights movement. After seeming out of the dating game for a while, he begins dating Megalyn Ichikunwoke in February 2006, but they reportedly split up after 4 years. In 2020, after struggling to make it back to set following the COVID-19 pandemic, Chris Rock returns to the screen and plays a black crime boss in 1950s Kansas City in the 4th season of the acclaimed hit Netflix series, Fargo.
You sure about this? You remember what happened to the Irish?
Italians, they're the past. We're the future. They just don't know it yet.
We're the goddamn Roman Empire.
In 2021, Chris declares that he is happier being single and that he approaches life with optimism. When the world changed from the pandemic, Chris Rock focused on self-improvement. He also opened up about going to therapy, which seemed to be a way for him to come to terms with his childhood trauma. Years later, as an adult, Rock looks back to reflect on those that hurt him. Chris Rock, the comic who dreamed of being taken seriously, never stopped pushing the envelope on the issues of race, poverty, politics, and culture that shaped his comedy since his youth, and always dedicated his work to exposing inequalities between the races. His difficult childhood taught him how to deal with serious things, which is what made his comedy great. All along, he never lost sight of his roots. Rising from the obscurity of his childhood to the top of the comedy world, Rock was yearning for success, and he found it. Chris Rock dreamed of following in the steps of the geniuses that came before him, only to find his own genius, one that made him an inspiration to others.
Bye.